Europeans call it. And that's a botrytis mold. It turns out a purplish gray. Concentrates, dehydrates the grape, concentrates the sugars, so that for a variety that if you were to pick prior to botrytis, it came in about 21 bricks. After botrytis, it come in about 30 in the 30s.
Really?
So that makes it pretty sweet.
How do you verify that?
How do you?
Sorry?
So you say, how did you verify it?
You just verify it like any other.
Yeah.
Because of the potentially high alcohol, you may have to be more selective in your choice of yeast.
And it's really nice. Botrytized fruit gives a very unique and really
flavor.
quite pleasant honey, a little richer flavor, honey notes, and some other things, and complexity. Adds some complexity that you wouldn't find in non-botrytized fruit. So very nice. And some varieties are very susceptible to it. The varieties that we have here, probably what Vignoles is most susceptible to it. And it's lovely in the Vignoles, and up to about 5%, maybe a little more. It's desirable. It's actually desirable if you want to go for that style. Beyond that, get up to 10%, 15%, and it can be off-putting and a little too much.
Yeah. How much of your yield is botrytized wine then?
Very little.
Very little.
We try to control it.
Yeah.
We spray, prevent it.
Yeah.
What are the common varieties you guys grow here?
We grow 4 hybrids and 2 vinifera. The hybrids are Cayuga White, Saval, Vidal, Vignoles. The vinifera recently is Chardonnay.
Okay. I hear the reasons pretty popular, just Finger Lakes area.
Yes.
Yeah.
You bet.
This is considered to be one of the prime growing areas for Riesling.
What makes it so great?
The weather.
Yeah. Like a lakefront right there.
Well, think of it. You want a grape that's not only very aromatic, but good acidity.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to find that in California. You would in parts of Oregon, perhaps, and certainly in the state of Washington. But otherwise, the Rieslings come across as being kind of flat.
And cooler climate site. You think about where they develop some of their best character in Europe, and it's north. You know, it's not the southern part. It's Germany, where they develop some of their best characters. And we have a climate that's Alsace, right? Very similar here. And some people have said also that the soils add a nice, the slaty, minerally soils add a nice characteristic to the Rieslings. Rieslings that have been grown in a warmer climate, such as Napa in California, where they're grown down lower, not up higher. They're pretty flat. They're overripe, and they don't have a nice acidity that seems to be promulgated by cool nights.
Yeah.
So
you get a lot of those. So
you bet.
I guess speaking to that, how has this sort of odd weather pattern affected your crop at all this year? It's been unseasonably warm.
It's too early to tell.
Yeah.
But the biggest concern, of course, is bud damage. The young buds are very susceptible to frost.
Yeah, and they get at a stage.
The other problem is once the sap starts running, if you get a hard freeze, it'll split the trunks. We haven't noticed any of that damage.
No.
So, and we really don't know what the extent of the bud damage is now. We'll know in another week or two. But the folks up in Geneva have tried to assess bud damage on Cuba Lake and Seneca Lake, and they put it at about 20%. It varies depending on the site and the microclimate, to be sure. But higher elevations on the west side of Cuba Lake, 20 to 30%. Even on hardy varietals like Labrusca, Concords, and Iades.
Is 20% typical for a year?
I wouldn't say it's typical. Every year is different.
Yeah.
This has been quite unusual.
This has been a very
abnormal. You don't have 70-degree weather in March.
Yeah.
You don't have 70-degree weather, 68-degree weather in January. I was pruning January 30th. There was another person there, and they took a picture of me pruning with my shirt off in January.
Oh my goodness!
It was
wow.
unbelievable. It's just strange, and and it's really interesting too, because you do at a site like this get a lot of your bud damage midwinter, the low temperatures. So this late season, this early season warmth, which is promoting an early bud break, and then what happens often is you get very seasonably cold temperatures. It's not unusual at all to get freezing temperatures. You get temperatures down to 26 or 28 this time of year. But if the buds are 3 weeks advanced, they find themselves at a very sensitive stage, and so that's the second stage of this unusual season. But the midwinter cold temperatures never got anywhere near temperatures that would kill buds.
Yeah.
And fortunately for us, they didn't break dormancy. It wasn't so warm that they broke dormancy. So we didn't get any midwinter cold damage. Temperatures got down to minus 12 or minus 10 maybe here at the worst, and these varieties can take that. That's not a problem. But this overall warm winter has pushed them to a point where they're ahead by 2 to 3 weeks, and that gets them to a stage where if we get just modest cold, we can see damage. And that's what happened the last three nights, excluding last night. So that's what we're waiting to see is at how many of them were at that stage where they were particularly sensitive, and we'll see that.
Historically, bud break is said to occur in the middle of May.
Right.
Now, despite all of that warm weather, the buds did not, at least on our site, break. Fortunately, because it's colder here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're about to pop any day now, particularly with warm days and warm evening temperatures, about 50 degrees.
That really pushes them on.
That really pushes them on. And historically, we could get at least 2 more frosts
Yeah, by this.
before
You think so?
Memorial Day weekend.
Oh yeah.
That's the historical record.
Yeah. So we're coming up at a very, very important point for us, for this site, right now, in the next 10 days, next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's getting prepped for, I guess, what would be the next step once bud breaks?
Well, a whole bunch of sort of phenological stages. You get bud break and elongation and flowering and fruit set. There's just a whole stage of the plant proceeding through its growth cycle. But
And then you have to start your disease management program. And prior to that, you should have completed your weed control program.
Your weed control?
Yeah.
so these berms that you see down there, devoid of weeds. It's an effort to, among other things, help keep the relative humidity low and prevent diseases from getting close to the vines and things.
Quick question. Do you change these different programs according to the weather, or is it something that you do every single year?
We try to adapt to the weather.
Okay.
But we're quite limited. I mean, there are things that other, better capitalized wineries might do. Like you could have wind turbines. You could have, you could sprinkle water from sprinklers. Some people in Europe have smoke pots.
Yeah, the smudge pots.
Smoke pots.
And what do those do?
Well, they break up the very, very layered temperature profile that you get on really calm nights. And if it's really, really calm, cold air sinks and you get an inversion that's formed. And the lowest point in a site's vineyard is where the cold air will sink. And very, very short distance, relatively, in the atmosphere, if you're just talking about a few hundred feet, 300, 400, 500 feet, the temperature could be 3 or 4 or 5 degrees warmer, and that could make all the difference. So the whole idea is to break up that very, very still air. Now, if you have really cold air coming along and it's associated with a mixed environment, then the smudge pots and the wind machines aren't going to do a thing. So it's a very specific condition that they help for.
Of those technologies
Yeah,
to be found in the Finger Lakes.
that's right. Few wind
But
machines.
if you go to Niagara Frontier,
Yep.
some of the Canadian vineyards, most of them have wind turbines in them.
In Ohio, actually,
In
there are
Ohio.
quite a few. Yep.
I'm from Canada originally, so I've seen a couple of wind
Up
turbines.
along the bench.
Driving up through the
Oh, yeah.
St. Catharines
Yep,
area.
you bet.
Right.
It's a cool spot.
Very nice.
All right, I guess moving more to the business side of things. I'm a business major here. What months would you say you find the majority of your revenue coming in from 6 Mile Creek? What's the hot time for you guys?
Well, there's nothing unusual about Six Mile Creek that you wouldn't experience with just about any other winery in the Finger Lakes.
Right.
The busiest time is right around harvest. It's a time of year that gets people to go out and enjoy the wonders of nature in terms of spectacular scenery and visit wineries. Store up their supplies for the winter. Right.
And then a close second would be June through fall. June through September would be a threshold with a peak in around harvest. Fall colorings things. And then it definitely falls off in the winter.
Yeah.
And then the slow crescendo in the spring.
What are you
Each
guys up
month
to in
of
the winter? In terms of maintenance and prepping for next year?
Well, you're helping the wines to mature after harvest. You want to make sure that you don't have any spoilage problems. So, that's a high priority. You want to make sure your sulfur levels are up. You want to make sure your tanks are full when you top, if at all possible. Time probably to do some preliminary filtering. And it's time to be spent in experimenting with various blending.
What are you trying right now?
What are we trying right now?
Yeah.
Well, we're just about completed blending the program in preparation for the next bottling date, which is
May 22nd and May 23rd.
2 weeks coming up fast.
And that's a white blend?
A whole bunch. We got 8 wines that we've pulled together from wines that are traditionally not blended or have very little additions made to them, like Divinifera, Chardonnays, and Rieslings. But wines that are proprietary blends, Ithaca White and Ithaca Red. And, they are definitely blends of various things. And, we have a formula, but we don't always stick to it. Depends on the vintage, of course. And a lot of that has been done. And a new wine this year for us. Every few years we seem to manage to introduce a new wine, and we have a just completed 3 or 4 days ago dry rosé done in a very traditional style with a Cabernet Franc, 24-hour cold soak on the skins, and followed by a traditional fermentation, and it's done. And it will be bottled, it looks like, in 3 weeks, so we're kind of excited about that.
Wow.
New wine.
What's the name of that one?
Rosato.
Rosato.
Yes. Yeah, so be looking for that. That should be fun. We've tried it. We like it. We're pretty happy with our first effort.
Cool.
The principal grape is Cabernet Franc.
Yeah.
And as you may know, Cabernet Franc is one of the red melifers that does particularly well in this area, in this region.
Pretty cold hardy.
Yeah.
What do you find the best-selling wine inside is from this?
Well, I say this with some degree of ambivalence. The cash cows for the Finger Lakes wineries are very sweet wines. Wines with 6% residual sugar.
Yep.
This creates sort of a dilemma because wine aficionados and wine writers are not fond of sweet wines.
Right.
They're looking for dry vinifera. But the market is very oriented towards sweet wines. I don't know about Niagara Frontier. I've been there twice, and I don't think they have the number of sweet wines that you would find in a typical Finger Lakes winery. But one of the biggest sellers in Finger Lakes is a sweet wine produced by Hazard. It's called Red Cat. They produce close to 200,000 gallons.
Yeah, they produce like
if you go to
25 times our entire production in one wine. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. And so there you have it. But the model's repeated. It's not just them. There's Red Zeppelin. There's a lot of other wineries have their knockoffs.
After following years of resistance, we finally succumbed. So now we have a rival to Red Cat, which we call Bellissimo, and it's
quickly
flies out the door.
zoom to the second best-selling wine every month. and we released it first last spring. It's our youngest wine before the Rosado.